Yo, what's good, y'all? It's your man Bigga P, and I'm just here to share my thoughts from the Golovkin-Canelo pay-per-view. First of all, I mean, I went to the theater just like I did for Canelo Jr. and watched it, and I thoroughly enjoyed myself. I love the theater experience, man. I mean, granted, like I said, I could have stayed here and drank and paid, what is it? I think it was 80 for the HD version, which I have no problem paying. But I was like, you know what? Let me they were doing off in the theater and it's like $20. I was like, you know what, shit, let me go out and enjoy myself. And I did. I went to Patriot Place on Foxborough, because that whole, if you're familiar with that area, that area is there's a lot of stuff going on over there. So besides the Gillette Stadium, there's like shopping centers and restaurants, all types of stuff like that. Any place in there you can get stuff for drink or two or three before going into the theater. And that's what I did. So like I said, I was good. If I had a chance to go, I had a chance to go in there and enjoy myself. Um, the undercard on paper could have been a lot better. Oscar for the most part can get very lazy with that. But I enjoyed the undercard fights for what they were. I don't really have a lot to say about them. I mean, just a couple things here and there. I mean, Ryan Martin doesn't use this how he doesn't fight tall, and it nearly cost him that fight. Rojo put together a good effort. I mean, he taxed that body like it was nobody's business, and he kept pressuring him all night. The fight, the Diego De La Hoya card and Randy Caballero card, that fight was excellent. I thought it was a superb fight. I enjoyed it a lot. They were throwing some wicked combinations. And I know this is even before like the whole pre-fight stuff that was going on. So I think they put a little bit more effort into that, and I was happy with that card. And then afterward, Jojo Diaz and Rivera, the last minute replacement. Rivera has probably I mean, granted, Jojo Diaz, I don't think it's that. I mean, he's a decent puncher, but some of the shots he was hitting Rivera were just brutal. I mean, Rivera took a pretty serious beating, and but he kept coming forward and he kept on landing shots. I mean, his counters were fast and heavy. So that's how he kept himself in the fight. And I'm like, okay, I mean, that guy might have a future, but that guy have a future in that division. Diaz, of course, won that fight, and now he's the mandatory for Gary Russell. And for one thing, I don't think he's gonna win that fight, not at all. But hey, it will be fun while it lasts, I guess. Let's take us now to the main event. I'm not gonna lie to you, my heart was beating fast pretty much during the whole intros and stuff, like not during like the anthems, 3 anthems that they were showing. I'm like, okay, this fight's really here, and I'm a Triple G fan. I'm okay, because I was like, this is the fight that will either make or break him in terms of how he's going to be viewed how he's viewed career-wise. This is his fight coming after his decision win over Danny Jacobs back in March. And then most people thought also that's the first absolute chink in Triple G's armor. That he is human. Well, of course he's human, but the majority thought that he actually lost. And then we have Canelo, who's coming off pretty much a one-sided decision victory over Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., who barely put up a fight because he was so drained. I mean, that's pretty much the basics of that fight. Wasn't interested at all, and there was some criticism over Canelo of that fight. So we have this main event. It's gonna be like, is it gonna be? There are so many factors coming out. Is it gonna be, whose strengths, whose weaknesses is gonna come into play in this fight? And let me say this: the fight itself was excellent. I enjoyed the fight a lot. Pretty much it played out like this. Golovkin, was tentative as anything in probably the first 4 rounds of the fight, and I let Canelo to get off his shots. You see, I'm sure G at times he kept himself in the fight because he has probably one of the better jabs in the business, a steady, hard jab, and but I think he was just way too tentative. I didn't know if it was just nerves or whatever. And then Canelo was just, like I said, and especially when he kept doing, he moved into the mid ring. Canelo was just countering him. And he was the one. He was landing the more effective shots. Even though, depending how you score it, I think I get Canelo those early rounds. But Triple G certainly was, he kept himself in fight with the jab. But after the fourth round, Canelo gassed, pretty much. He gassed, and then afterwards, this is when he started doing his habit of lying on the ropes. And pretty much when he goes to the ropes, he's tired, and he's supposed to go off, and then this is usually where most opponents can see that, and Triple G, that's when Triple G started to warm up and started bullying him onto the ropes, and then slowly as the fight increased, putting on some pressure, started walking him down, and Canelo had been fighting on his back for pretty much the whole damn fight, and except when he's in mid range, especially when he was in the middle of the ring. And it was actually crazy to see an older man backing down a younger man like this that he was doing. I make no mistake, Canelo is tough. For all the things that I talk negative about Canelo about, he's a tough guy because he took some shots from Triple G that I'm thinking like, man, he didn't even fall or anything like that. Triple G hit him, and Canelo hit him, vice versa. Canelo hit him with some shots. Again, if you have any doubts on Triple G's chin, there shouldn't be any after this fight because he took some shots, some clean shots, and just still kept coming forward. He'll have to terminate. So this is the stuff that people are like, "What the hell? What is this?" And I thought, like I said, Triple G was running away with this. Going into the last round of the fight, I was like, Canelo probably needs like a knockdown, and Canelo came out swinging in the final round. And I think that's probably the clearest round I gave him since like the early rounds. And he, he didn't lay down like I thought he was gonna do. He didn't. He kept put one effort, and then he actually managed to rock Triple G in that in that round. Not wobble him to say, but be able to hit him with a shot that actually stopped him in his track, or just a little bit from stopping him from coming forward, and he actually outlanded him. So on my card, I had it 116-112 Triple G, a competitive one, and I thought, okay, this was going to be good. So imagine my surprise when they announced the first score of 118-110 for Canelo. I nearly lost my shit in the theater. I was just like flabbergasted, and after they announced the other card, 115-113 for Triple G. All right, fine. Yeah, I had nothing wrong with that score. And then the last score was 114, and I was thinking to myself, oh God, to 114, and we have a split decision draw. I don't have a problem with a draw. I don't. It was like I said, a lot of the fights are, depending on how you say how effective, you could score it a draw. I have no problem with the draw, any type of draw. What I have a problem with is bad scoring, bad judging. And that was the first score, 118-110. In what world in this fight do you see Triple G winning only 2 rounds in a fight? 2! And this was from Adelaide Burke, who has a history of turning in unbelievable cards that make you scratch your head, like if she's been watching the fight, or did she go out, did she go for a bathroom break and just didn't return, and just had to go make some score up in her head. And if I'm not mistaken, I just saw briefly the scorecard. She only gave Triple G the 4th and the 7th rounds, which is insane to me. Now, I wouldn't have a problem with a Canelo win if it was like closer, like anything 116-112 under is fine with me. I probably would have said, okay, it's a draw. I would have said, Triple G could do something else. Triple G, Canelo could do something else. Well, it's a draw. Okay, run that back. But when I see a 118-110 card for Canelo for this fight, I just can't. I could barely hold my outrage. This bad score ruined the whole damn fight. This reminded me of this. I think, I mean, there were plenty of bad scores, but this reminded me of a particular score from the first Paul Williams Sergio Martinez fight, where you had, I think, two of the judges had a draw, and then another judge had, I think it was like 115, 113 for Punisher. And then you have this crazy score of 119 to 110, which is a 10-1-1 scorecard for Punisher. And I'm a Punisher fan, but Punisher did not win a fight, that particular fight, on a no 10-1-1-1. Those type of scores make the fight look bad. It makes the sport look bad. In the theater I was in, like, everyone pretty much was like, you could say, I mean, there were calls of bullshit this, bullshit that, and some people already started walking out that theater ASAP. And this was something, and just ruined another one I thought was an absolutely great fight. And this is like, I just don't understand why a score like that could ever be put and entered in like that. Now, my takeaways from this fight, for both of those fighters, Triple G, it's clear to me that Triple G is still, like I said, Chin is out of this world. He's probably one of the elite pressure fighters in this game. He is showing his age. He's not, I mean, he's 35, and he's gonna be 36 next year, and he is showing his age a lot. So that's why I was just a little bit irritated of this particular fight. Triple G should have had his day in the sun for this fight, because he is getting older, and middleweight is not going to wait any longer. He's getting older, and I'm realizing now that he's at the tail end of his physical prime. So running this back could be very detrimental to him in a way. It might not be Canelo, and we'll get into him and why I don't think that is, but there are other middleweights that are waiting that could probably take advantage of this, of the aging, because Triple G, if he had actually gone to the body earlier in the fight and then fight so technically, he probably could have just won a very clear decision, clear decision, and he could have probably made it a lot easier for himself. Probably been a wider and probably an easier win for him, possibly a stoppage. But he's been abandoning the body work a whole lot. I mean, he did it in the Jacobs fight. He wasn't throwing much to the body, and in the Canelo fight, it was even less. So if this has to be a rematch for this, then that has to happen. Canelo, tough guy, tough dude. He took some shots, and he stayed upright without going down. You know, he's probably the first person in 9 years to do so. Now, in this particular case, something I've always talked about with Canelo, I've never been impressed with him, particularly, is his stamina. His stamina is trash. Just to put it lightly, his stamina is god-awful. For a 27-year-old Mexican fighter, it is god-awful. He got tired. I mean, he looked more cut and everything like that in the way, but by round 4, because he had been fighting on his back foot, he gassed, and then he started that thing where he's on the ropes. No, and this is a Canelo in his prime. He's considered in his prime. You think after 50-something fights, this should be something that he would be able to correct. After 50-something fights, at 27 years old, whatever, he should be able to correct. And it's still an issue. I've had arguments with people about this, about his stamina. I said his stamina is terrible. And he's like, oh no, he stayed 12 rounds for Junior. You know, he barely threw. I mean, he threw enough, but he didn't throw enough to actually force a stoppage. That's the problem. And I just don't see Canelo. Now, Canelo retains his status as the lineal middleweight champion of the world. There's no question about that. But I just don't see him lasting against younger or the middleweights that are in his age range and that are in his prime if he can't correct the stamina issue. But at 55 fights, that should be something that should be. He needs a conditioning coach, and he needs a conditioning coach bad. People say he gassed previously because he was going forward. Well, he was moving backwards and he gassed. So what does that tell you? And you was telling too the whole fight that that people booed. Canelo got booed because of this. I mean, everyone seems to be the majority seems to see that Triple G won the fight. I thought he won the fight 116 to 112. Regardless, this does not look good for Canelo to have this to have this type of stain on there. And so I know they're gonna run this back, but Canelo may or may not catch Triple G. But if he survives another fight with him, I just don't see him beating an elite middle. I mean, you have pretty much the Jacob fight, and you have Jacob, and you have the Charlo fight, who's now who's still Triple G's mandatory. So that might have to fight. And Canelo is, I mean, I just don't see it, because the 160 he goes back to 154, and 154 is pretty much one of those divisions where you have a lot of the young fighters up there, and a lot of these are already prime killers. They're about to be. So yeah, Canelo. This was a blow to Canelo's reputation. Triple G, not as much, but like I said, the age is showing on him, and it's only a matter of time for him. Overall, like I said, it was a great main event, but I was just too disappointed and too irritated by just that bad score. I'm hoping maybe it was a score that says, oh, no, I added wrong, and well, actually I can't say that. For a 118-110 score, I mean, to have a card like that turn into a Triple G card, I probably have to wish on the draw card to see, oh, let's say yes, that should be a victory for Triple G. I will say this though, Canelo, I'm fully convinced, man, you have to KO him in order to actually win a fight fully for him. He's had, prior to the Floyd fight, he's had a couple of close calls, like fights that probably got dubious scores that probably went his way. And in the Floyd fight, pretty much Floyd boxed his head off. And yet you had a judge turn in a 114 draw score for, in contrast to the other two scores. And I'm like, I didn't even think Canelo even won 2 rounds. Barely. And then you have the lower fight, which was also controversy. But at least the scores were at least a little bit closer there. And now you have a 118-110 score for him over Triple G. Now, Canelo, for whatever reason, has just too much. He might have so much going on in the background that that it's too much for him to actually lose a clear decision on the cards, instead of just like perception. And I have a feeling too, unless you actually KO him big time, we're gonna probably get regarding him. We're probably gonna get more scores of that nature. When he actually gets in the ring. When he gets in the ring and gets someone that can actually test him. And it's sad, but what can you do, right? It's boxing. Boxing politics. If you follow boxing, you're used to seeing. You're used to stuff like this. So, anyways, I'm about to turn on ESPN and go watch Teddy Atlas and Stephen A. Argue and shout at each other. I mean, I've read stuff, but I need to see his videos to see what I've been missing. So, till then, peace.